What is up, YouTube? Welcome to a very special episode of Sunday Slaughter. And today we are doing a tournament match. It's the top table of the indie tournament, or quote unquote Adepticon, that Brett had run at Family Time Games in Indianapolis. So at top table, we had Dave from Small Council and Brett Lanpher. A big surprise, Brett is at top table. So today we're going to do something a little different. We've got a different format that I want to show you guys, and I've also got both players here to commentate the match with me. So first off, let's go ahead and introduce both players. Dave and Brett, say hi.
Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Thank you for joining me today. Let's start with Dave, and let's quickly go over the army that you brought.
Yeah, so my list was pretty straightforward. It's a slight variant of the original list I kind of made as soon as these models became available. I just kind of wanted to try out the combo way back when everything was released, and I originally wasn't going to play Baratheons, but because of how many people were signing up as Starks, I kind of wanted to show the internet that the tournament wasn't just going to be nothing but Starks the whole way through. So I ended up taking a list of 3 Wardens, a unit of Cutthroats, and 2 units of Sentinels. No attachments at all. And then I had Melisandre, Roose, and Axel. So I had 9 activations for Baratheon Force. Both of my lists were NCU commanders, so it was going to be a rough day for a couple of the missions, but luckily this mission, there wasn't much in the way of needing a field commander. So I kind of went with this list just to help, with the Mel Bomb to help me, and Axel for Ghost, to see how that kind of played out. So yeah, that's my list.
All right, Brett. So tell us what you got here.
Yeah, so the list I ran, it was basically designed to pick up and do some things that the John list can't do. What I mean by that is the John list is basically built around melee. This list has 2 really, really strong range unit, and it has Athel's cards to really amplify those ranged units and make them even better. So I felt like I needed to run this list because Dave was running Baratheons. Additionally, I had this in mind for the scenario because you have the secret mission that comes up for destroying an enemy commander. It can be a really big swing, but just in general, even without that mission, I felt like this was the better list to run because of the Baratheon matchup. The crossbows are a really big problem for a lot of armies, and Baratheons in particular. They really, really don't like the crossbows. So I just didn't want to get stuck in an engagement with Sworn Brothers and let some of those Baratheon cards start to do work. So definitely wanted to run the Athel list here.
Awesome. All right, so now it looks like we are underway. The match is just about to start. Again, what game mode were you guys playing here?
We were playing, I believe it's called Winds of Winter, right? Or was it Dark Wings, Dark Words?
This is Dark Wings, Dark Words.
Okay.
I was just going to say, it's one of the secret mission scenarios. We did use the 1.6 version of the mission cards. This event, we kind of did a hybrid 1.6, 1.7, in that some of the documents had updated and not everybody had access to the old ones. So I think for some of the deployments and things like that, we used the 1.7, but all 20 secret mission cards were the 1.6 version. So you have some really swingy missions there, which is fine. I still really like the scenario in 1.6 and in 1.7. You have a lot of options. You have some ways of playing around some of the stuff that happens.
And what we saw here that just happened, both of you drew the first 3 cards, so it looks like the secret objectives active for, or that you drew for round 1 is score this mission when you destroy an enemy that has not activated this round. You have the reveal this mission at the start of any turn, score 1 victory point this round each time you attack an enemy in the flank or rear, and score 3 if you destroy an enemy controlling an objective, or score 1 point at the end of the round if you control one and only one objective. So, but you can't score in round 1, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And you also need 12 points to win this one rather than the 10.
Gotcha. All right, so the match now has officially started. Dave has played Baratheon Conviction. Kudos to him, because I always forget that's in my hand. So he got the timing right. And then Brett, with the classic move of putting Corrin on the letters, and I believe he's about to hand out a token here.
Yep. Yeah, just didn't want to give Dave the option to take cards. It's kind of a no-brainer. The only other choice I could have potentially made there was going for the maneuver zone. But with Axel around, I know that Roos can drop the tokens at will, but with Axel, Melisandre around, you definitely want to prevent those tokens from stacking up. You want to make him choose between using Axel to remove the panic token and do the 2 wounds, or to use the panic token on the Mel target. So it's a little bit tough. It's a bit of a tough match if you don't have a super high morale army, but I've got some really juicy units there for Dave to really use Melisandre for. So it was pretty scary, and I knew there wasn't really much I could do to save Ghost either. So
Yeah, and it looks like you, with any round 1 with experienced players, you guys are moving pretty quick with your NCU. So you had Corrin on the letters, and then Dave put Axel in the bags. So you remove the panic token that was put out, and it looks like you put Axel on Ghost. So I mean, that's pretty classic there. I'm not expecting Ghost to make it beyond round 1 here. And then after putting Axel on the bags, Brett went ahead and put Othel on the crowns and replaced the effect, I'm assuming.
yeah, and again, this was a case where I could have taken the maneuver and started to move those trackers into position, or start to threaten with the crossbows. But just with the potential of Melisandre taking the crown, doing a test with her ability, and then the crown test, there's a chance that the crossbows or the trackers or something like that are just completely and totally crippled, and they could be down to just one guy. So I really wanted to block the crown as badly as I wanted the horse there.
All right, so we have the first Mel bomb of the game, and looks like Brett takes 5 from that. But Dave is pointing out that he's got a panic token, so you're going to reroll the E3. And then, nice. Brett always having the cards that he needs. He plays Fire That Burns. So minimum damage, although you failed the test. So it looks like the board has now been filled and all NCUs have been activated. So Brett, you're going first to activate on the board, and you're marching your conscripts up. So
yeah, just kind of trying to use my dummy activations, the less important ones. Obviously, the crossbows and the trackers and Lord Snow are the 3 heroes of this list, so they're the ones that really need to get in position. It's worth noting to anybody who's listening here, I think a lot of people still get this wrong, but I had a Fire That Burns Against the Cold in my hand. So knowing that it's against the rules to use that card to quote unquote save Ghost is why I spent it on that panic token. I still see a lot of people using the Fire That Burns to cancel Axel's ability, and it doesn't work that way. So if anybody's wondering why I saved a couple of wounds on the crossbows and am going to let Ghost die, that's the reason for that.
And I actually was wondering this. Would you think about activating Ghost like first thing before Axel even activates? Or is it even worth doing that to save Ghost? Is that ever a strategy for you if you're playing against Axel?
To be honest, it's something I gave a little bit of consideration to, because I'm not against activating a combat unit first. It's actually what I did in the Night's Watch Masters, and I think it's what won me the game. I thought about doing it here, but since this scenario doesn't do victory by combat, and it wasn't going to give him an early lead. And Ghost was kind of just a dummy activation. In this particular scenario, since it's less about killing units and more about completing the missions, I wanted Ghost alive, but I just didn't want to give Dave the opportunity to draw cards. I wanted to deny him that as much as I could, because the
Sure.
biggest weakness to Stannis side Baratheon is the card draw. So if I'm helping him to be able to draw cards, I think I'm putting myself at a disadvantage.
Gotcha. So yeah, it looks like round one, we're just doing the standard maneuvering game. Both of you guys are just moving up. Was there any thought, Dave, to your strategy against his list?
So I was just trying to bide my time. Use Mel to soften up units, kind of lessen the impact that his units were going to be able to inflict on mine. I knew I was going to, with Ghost going quickly, I was going to have the activation advantage. And with me going first, second round, it was just going to be, something that would be able to help me out later in the game. So I was just trying to activate, opposite of his stuff, try to, prolong the amount of shooting that he was going to get, and try to lessen, the impact that the strength of his list was going to have.
And it looks like here you're probably measuring the threat range of the trackers with the martial attachment, which is pretty scary. Brett, was this the first time you ran it in a competitive tournament?
It's the first time I've run it in person. I've ran it in ELO events. I squeezed it into my Donald Noy list. I know that it's a really powerful unit. I've played against it before. I really wish that I could fit it into my Jon Snow standard list, but that cost me Walder Frey. That's a conversation for another day. But it is the first time I've run it in something that wasn't ELO. Again, I know its strength. I know how powerful it is. The interesting thing here, though, is that Dave, he actually kind of has me on my back foot already. So you can see that everything that I did was a march. So I really felt like I needed to get up in his face and start to make something happen, because he, like he said, he has the activation advantage, and that's not a good position to be in against Baratheons.
Got it. All right, so it looks like it's the end of round one, and in this game mode, first player gets to draw a new objective and then replace one of them, one of the existing 3 objectives. So it looks like the one that was drawn was an NCU may spend their activation to score 1 point instead of moving on the tactics board, which if you guys have played this game mode before, heavily favors having 3 NCUs, and also favors an NCU like Mel, who still gets to pop off her ability without activating on the board. So you guys can't hear Brett right now, but I think he's a little worried that we saw that card being drawn.
Oh, absolutely. I had a buddy who was standing next to the table. It's Ryan Boaz. He's a gentleman that did really well in Adepticon 2019. He had some personal stuff come up, so he had to step away from the game. So I was explaining to him in that moment exactly why I was in big trouble. Obviously, what Chris just mentioned, Melisandre doesn't need to go on the board to do her panic test. So that mission is like literally ideal for Dave. It was a little bit, maybe a little bit frustrating, but that's part of the nature of playing these secret missions. And even when situations like that can happen, where a card just greatly favors your opponent, I still really like these missions. I like how they play, and I like the strategy that opens up to you and the tactical play that you have available to you. So, yeah, definitely, I was a little bit worried when that one came up.
So what we see here is Dave deep in the tank here. He's going first this round, and I don't think there's any debate here. You will activate Mel, but what are you thinking about here?
I'm just kind of thinking about what to try to finish off. I'm thinking probably those crossbows because on a max damage, I can nuke them. Just trying to figure out the threat range of the trackers because I hadn't played the against the Marshal in person yet. I knew that I should have been just telling myself it was similar to the Kranigman trackers or just the Kranigman trackers and their ability to when you swift advance them. But in my head, because it was a cavalry unit, I just wasn't making the connection, so I was just overthinking the threat range of the trackers.
Got it. And it looks like you were being a gentleman here. Brett forgot to do the tracker order in round 1, so you let him go ahead and put the vulnerable out on those sentinels. So with your strategy of bringing down his activations with Mel, are you less likely to activate her without a token out? I feel like whenever I play Mel, it's just I've got the worst luck. So I'm assuming that's why you have Roos in this list instead of Stannis.
Roos is to combo with Axel and Mel. I figure if I'm passing out 2 panics, I not only can have one for Axel, I can have one to almost guarantee that Mel is going to do what she needs to do.
Yeah.
And then if they let me take the letter, then that's even more tokens I get out there.
All right, so we see Brett rolling again. He rolls a 5 and only takes 6. So not what you want to see if you're playing Mel, but you're heavily crippling the crossbows, which are only rolling 3 dice on last rank. So I guess it's not that bad. But you do sacrifice the activation from Mel to gain a point. How are you feeling there when he failed but didn't die there?
I kind of expected it. I knew it was a long shot to, try to bank on him just dying from that, since I knew I needed max damage. So I tried not to get my hopes up in that situation.
Yeah, and it really put me in a spot. I was very fortunate to have passed, or not to have passed, but to have failed and only rolled a 2 there instead of that unit dying, because that unit is so important. But as you can see, it really forced my hand. I wanted to sacrifice NCU activations to gain points to keep up with what Dave was doing. But with the threat of Mel, I don't really have a choice but to heal the crossbows if I want to keep them alive. If the crossbows die and I go down 2 activations, I don't think there's any coming back from that.
Yeah, I think you're best suited against this matchup when you can keep your ranged units alive. And it's unfortunate that they're at last rank. I was just saying that, at last rank they're only rolling 3 dice. I think 4 now if you put Corrin on them. But what I would like to see is definitely those ranged units start to do work. Because if you wait too long, Dave's very slow army will eventually catch up and just start melting stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. The last thing I wanted in this game was to lose one of my zone control units. One of my units that kind of keeps him at least a little bit honest. If those crossbows in the center die, then he has no reason not to just go all in. He can double team conscripts. He can bog down Lord Snow. And if he gets the trackers tied up into combat as well, then he's really got me pretty much kind of screwed, I guess. I have to have those ranged units to have a chance in this fight. That's why I chose this list. So what you're seeing there is Dave is going for the charge on my ranger trackers, which I totally didn't expect. He needed to roll a 5. He caught me way off guard with this one. So the start of this.
Dave is listening into the future during this match here, and he's hearing us talk about the importance of the range units, and he's he's communicating with his past self, saying, "Hey, you need to charge those trackers right now." So
Using my third eye. But
Yeah,
as we'll see, this was the biggest mistake of the game.
but you make it.
Yes,
You do make
it's
the
still the
charge.
biggest. It's still the biggest mistake of the game because I misread the objective. It's been so long since I used the old or the current 1.6 secret mission deck that I misread one of the cards, and it allowed for Brett to get a bunch of points.
I think we'll we'll get into what that could be, but what we're seeing here is a pretty decent attack here. I think you do 5 wounds, if I'm not mistaken. You pass your panic. So, Brett, I gotta say, your Night's Watch army is beautiful. You got these diorama bases, but they are a bitch to figure out how many wounds are left on them. Yeah, I think Brett,
Bob.
you take 5. You take 5 wounds there. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Bob had the same kind of issue when I came to Gamers Haven. So I really got to think, because I've sold down to just Lannisters and Night's Watch. What I'm doing with the Lannisters and their basing, it's not going to be a problem. I'm going to have to figure out some kind of solution to do this a little bit better. I think in person, it's probably a little bit more okay, but definitely when I'm looking down at this tabletop, it's pretty hard to read those snowy trays and see what's really going on with the models on them. So I can understand why people might get a little bit frustrated watching that. I did go all in with those dioramas, but it definitely has its downside. They're also pretty difficult to manage because I have to remove them in the order that they were destroyed, because the magnets are specific for certain models. So if I just kind of throw them off to the side like everybody else is able to do, I won't be able to stick them back on the tray when I heal. So it's been a learning process for me. But I think the most obvious solution is to just put the dead guys onto a tray on the side, which is what I've been doing, and they can just glance over at how many are dead. If they want to do that, it's a little bit easier. But I definitely know what you're saying. There's a little bit of interaction between myself and my opponent, and whenever I play Night's Watch, I'm constantly being asked how many guys are left on the tray.
Okay, what we see here is you played Watcher on the Wall, but you have not moved anyone yet. So I think you may be taking it back. I can see why you would think about it, because with the attacking an enemy in the flank or rear objective active, the Swarm Brothers with Jon Snow could completely blow up that unit of Sentinels that just charged into the trackers. But if I remember correctly, you opt not to play it. You bring it back to hand. Is there any reason why you decided not to play it there, Brett?
Again, it was just a situation where Dave had me on my back foot, and what I didn't want to do was start making really hasty decisions, start doing things that maybe it works out okay, maybe I blow that unit up, but in my mind it was like I could have marched up, charged the flank of those Sentinels. If I failed, maybe I get countercharged in the rear, and then if they have like a hold the line or something like that, and then they attack, that could be dead Lord Snow, and it just snowballs so badly at that point. So what I was really doing was kind of trying to show some restraint and make the smart decision instead of just going with, feeling desperate and just going for these charges. So I looked at the state of the table and I didn't see a March charge that I loved. So I opted not to use Watcher and just take a couple of shots with the crossbows here, since I was in their flank, which is what Dave was mentioning being the mistake that he made, because the crossbows are getting a point.
Completely ridiculous that the Sentinels took max damage from a unit of
Yeah.
crossbows on last rank. So yeah, Dave taking 8 wounds there from one shot in the flank. We see Brett getting a point because he scores from the objective. I do like the play too, Brett, that you decided to do there, because not only are you making it safer from any kind of threat of retribution cards from Dave, but you're also activating them to get that point just in case Dave decides to get cheeky and activate with the crown and potentially, panic bomb them off the table before they can do anything. So I did really like that play.
Yeah, and that was kind of the thought behind that. It was pretty clear that Dave wasn't playing the board, so I didn't feel rushed to place a third NCU on the board. I was trying to keep my options open with the possibility of just activate passing with an NCU, but in an emergency situation, I've got the crown, the letters, and the maneuver zone at my disposal. Really tempting not to use the maneuver zone to retreat those ranger trackers, take the free shot, and then be able to march them or something like that. But Dave is definitely a really good player. He's not a name that the competitive community throws around, but they just don't know him because he doesn't play TTS. He is a very solid player, so I knew that I didn't have room for any mistakes. So he's got me in the tank. He's got me really thinking about what I'm doing here.
And I can attest for Dave being a good player. I've played him twice already on the table. And if there's any rules question or interaction question that I have, Dave is usually the guy that I think of that would probably have the answer. You know this game in and out. So, and it really shows when you play against Dave. All right, what we have here is you see another shot potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You shot again with your crossbows, it looks like, but you did survive the shot. And I believe, Brett, you forgot to take your panic check on your trackers the first time, but you may have rolled that already. When I was editing this video for the commentary, you did forget, but then you remembered like a turn or two later. So. All right, and I believe now, Brett, you're looking at the tactics board. I mean, at this point, you've already made the decision that the board right now, since you're playing down activations, is a viable option. Not just thinking about sacking an NCU, but it's 2-1 right now, which is surprising. How do you feel right now going into mid round 2?
I still feel like Dave has the advantage. Like you said, that max damage on the Sentinels was definitely unexpected from me as well. I did not expect it to do that much. I was just trying to keep up with Dave's sacrificing NCUs. I was trying to keep up with that and start to whittle down some activations. So I have some choices to make, because if I try to play the passive game and just kind of sit back and let Dave just score NCU points and I just score NCU points, I'm kind of putting myself at a disadvantage, because he's got more activations, more wounds on the table. And if something happens really, really badly, something goes really, really wrong, and my only choice is to table him, for example, if I've played passively the entire game and if I've played too passively, then I'm out of the game and I don't have an option. So it was kind of a juggling act. I need to be kind of aggressive. I don't want to be too stupidly aggressive and give Dave some opportunities. Again, with the potential counter charge, that could have been 2 points for Dave as well. Rear charge on Lord Snow and then another attack on Lord Snow. So I'm really sitting there thinking, and I'm weighing out these types of options. And I'm like, I just don't want to make a really aggressive play that doesn't work out. And then I end up putting myself in a spot where I can't possibly come back.
And what we saw there is you did opt to go onto the tactics board to heal up your crossbows. So now they went from 4 to 6 wounds left. And then now you're retreating with your trackers. And of course, with the Watch Marshal attachment on there, you will get to do a free shot. So I'm going to guess that with precision enhancement that you just played, that these Sentinels are not going to survive this next attack.
You'd be wrong.
So we got six hits coming here with precision, and
I felt bad.
would
I
you look at
passed
that?
all my saves, and I was like, you know what, Brett, I'm gonna just remove them because that wasn't fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, those small council dice, I think it's all in the way that Dave rolls. If you guys are peeping the way he rolls, he's got a very unique way of rolling. And sometimes he rolls like that, and it's like, what just happened? You like your average dice roll in that was like a 4.7. Like, I need to try to roll dice that way.
Oh, hang on. We got Brett's poop break.
Oh yeah, intermission.
Yep, intermission for Brett. Well,
So if anyone out there is watching or listening to this, if you go to the bathroom right now, you should be back before Brett.
I love how Brett takes off for the poop break, and then Dave just he takes a seat. He's like, it may be a while here, so I'm just gonna pull up a chair. I'm just gonna relax for a second.
Hey, what can I say? He got my nerves going. Isn't that one of the? It's one of the things I talked about for my pregame. You got to do pancakes for breakfast, and you gotta
poop at the top table
at the restaurant, and then you have to poop in the middle of a game too. It's the only way. Even on TTS, when I've got my nerves, like, I'm generally such a nervous person, and like, I don't want to say emotional, but I do like get a little bit of anxiety and stuff like that. So it's definitely a real thing. Like, it actually knocks my guts up, and it physically causes me to have to go to the bathroom.
No,
so I'm sorry for all the 411 there, but that's what happens.
I totally get that. I've never really had that for tabletop games, but when I played the Dragon Ball Z card game, I was the same exact way. I,
Oh yeah,
it just
I've
felt
had
like
that.
sick to my stomach. Like at the start of any or at the start of any big event, especially for those events, you're looking at like 200 to 300 people, and like one loss could mean the difference between where you're going to place. So I definitely get that.
All right, so it looks like while Brett was on his little poop break there, Dave, you were trying to sort of figure out the threat range of the watch marshal there, but then you opted to just activate your sentinels and just position them for maybe a counter charge if you had it in hand. And then Brett reacts by, looks like, marching up his sworn brothers with Jon Snow and facing your sentinels. Do you remember what you may have had in hand, Dave? I mean, you're positioning yourself like you have counter charge. Do you remember if you had it?
I want to say I didn't. I almost always position to make it look like I have it, regardless if I do. I know that it, and from my experience of playing Baratheons, it tends to play some mind games with my opponent. And counter charge can be such a strong game changing card that it, even if you want to try to call the bluff of your opponent, I mean, in a lot of cases, it might not be worth it. So I try to make sure all of my pivoting and positioning is in such a way that it's making my opponent think about it.
And just so people aren't confused here, it looks like you took back your maneuver with the sentinels because I don't think you realized that the trackers had already activated with that retreat that happened. So because of that, you thought, okay, they have activated already. Maybe I'll move them up, but then you opted just to go back with the original plan and then leaving them how they were.
Yeah.
And so now Brett is going back to his activation with Jon Snow, and I think he just moved up a little bit farther there.
And of course, this is another case of those games where it's something that I say to the community. This is a CMON official Adepticon tournament, and obviously this is really important. But just by my nature, and thankfully Dave is the same way, we are just like so laid back about it that like both of us, we don't ever want to have like a win with an asterisk, right? We don't ever want to say like, yeah, we won Adepticon, but then our opponent is, talking to his circle and they're like, yeah, well, I mean, he won, but like I just had this brain fart and like I moved this unit and I wasn't really thinking about it. The game state hadn't changed and I asked for a take back and they told me no, or something like that. And I just don't ever want that. So if it's a case like that where the game state hasn't changed, it's not a big deal. I'm always going to let somebody take back. Dave is the same way. So this was a really cool match. I was really glad to be playing him. But I think for the most part, I know that the gamers would be the same and like the whole indie group would be the same. And I'm not trying to gamer bash anybody who doesn't do that, but the game just feels so much cleaner, so much friendlier, and so much nicer if you give a little bit of leeway, especially when it's 4 rounds in one day. Like everybody's kind of tired and mentally taxed. Like it's just best to maintain that good sportsmanship. And then back to what Dave's saying about countercharge, I just want to re-emphasize how it's always a great card, right? It's always really dangerous, but in this particular scenario, uh, I have to give it its due because it's essentially a 2-point card. It's a free charge into the flank, and then a free attack, and then the activation attack into the flank is 2 points. And I don't have any time to react because it was my turn when I charged him. So counter charge for me right now is just super scary. So I'm really having to make sure that I set myself up to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Well, I would think that this round it would be less scary because we're moving into round 3 here. The new objective that was drawn was score this mission if an enemy is panicked, vulnerable, and weakened at the end of the round. And I believe it was Dave who decided to replace that secret objective, which gains points if you attack from the flank or rear, which is smart. I would have done the same. And then we're going into round 3. You're activating on the board. It's 1 for 1. So although you're missing out on the NCU objective, you are hoping to remove a unit and score points from destroying a unit that hasn't activated yet. I would assume that's your plan, Brett. That would be 2 points if you were able to do that.
Yeah, it's more or less. Again, I'm trying to toe the line. I'm trying to keep up with points. The temptation is to just activate and pass like I know Dave is doing and try to keep up. But at the same time, I felt like I had to at least do some things on the board. The last round, I felt like I had to heal. And in this round, I feel like I have to put some pressure on Dave because most of the missions that could potentially come up, he has the advantage of having the more bodies on the field, having the activation advantage. So it can get a little wishy-washy. I'm still kind of thinking at this point that it might come down, depending on what missions come up, it might come down to me having to wipe this army. And it's not generally the play that I try to go for because it's just a hyper-aggressive play and it can get you in trouble. But at the same time, at the back of my head, I'm wanting to get rid of some of these units to give myself the potential to go ahead and like camp on objectives and start to play some of these missions. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly what my 2 conscripts on that flank are going to do because they are like glass cannons over there and they definitely don't want to just YOLO out and start engaging stuff.
Before we go over this attack that's happening right here onto the cutthroats, one thing that you'll see is my little animation came up and said that you guys had scored points from the score 1 point for being on one and only one objective, but I don't even think that you guys should have scored points I should have scored points from that because that was discarded at the end of round 1. So I'm just having the score up as you guys scored them yourselves. I'm not correcting anything, but I do believe that although it says 3-4, it should be 2-3.
That's I think that might have been where I also made the mistake, because I think I didn't remember was it the mission for when a unit that's unactivated dies. Like I think my biggest downside for this mission was having not played it in so long. Because as soon as the new mission cards came out, I was nothing but playing those, or mission objective cards. I always get the two mixed up, but so yeah, I was constantly mixing up the effects and what the exact wording was for these.
I had the same exact issue. You guys can't see me, but right next to Brett and Dave's table, I was playing against Craig, another small council member, and that cost me the game. Is not really being familiar with the secret missions, not really reading them thoroughly. That was a big problem of mine. But back to this match, we've got Brett. It looks like he's maybe thinking about. He's pointing to the Ranger trackers. They may be in range of that Sentinel unit that's facing the Swarm Brothers. Now that your cutthroats have gone down to 5 wounds, Dave, were you debating on just activating them and just denying Brett the 2 points with another shot of those crossbows?
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was just trying to think of either doing that, or maybe just trying to find some other way to prevent it. I didn't want to have to activate them, especially if he then just charged me with some conscripts. So it was definitely an option, but not one that I wanted to have to make.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I felt a little bit better when I did some damage to those cutthroats, because they were really scary. Cutthroats against conscripts, especially with their low morale and low defense, have one shot potential. And there's another Mel. I failed every single one, but the gods are still with me because I rolled a 1 that time and stayed alive. As much as you can complain about Mel. For those keeping track at home, he's activated Mel. Now this is the 3rd time, right?
Yep.
And so he's done 9 to himself, and he's done 11. He's done more than 11 to the crossbows, but the crossbows are still
16.
alive. So
if you count the 5 you healed.
Yeah.
Or
So
14, I think.
I think you did 6, 6, 5, right? So 17.
No, 6, 5, 5.
Yeah.
So yeah,
16 wounds.
Dave, you're a pretty calm guy. I mean, I feel like I know you pretty well at this point, and if I were in Dave's shoes at this point, I would have thrown Mel across the table. Seeing that unit just back, that unit with 1 wound is just a thorn in your side at this point. I'd be kind of frustrated, but that's what happens when you play Mel.
Could you imagine though if it's the new watch captain was there, and boldness and courage said, you know what, I'm at 1 guy and I'm still shooting you with 7 dice.
Oh God,
But
that'd be ridiculous.
that's this list actually. The reason I have no attachments, the reason I have like all 6 physical full combat units, like no solos or anything, is actually because I am not scared to just start taking models off of a unit for Mel. As you
Right.
see in the top of the screen, they're down to 3 guys. I'm just 3 guys every round, knowing, I guess in this exact scenario, I'm kind of down on models compared to Brett. But in most games, the extra bodies means I can kind of, I don't have to mill onto the money bag. Um, I mean, it's still a smart play. It prevents your opponent from taking it, and you can heal it back. But I'm never in that position where I'm like, or I'm usually not in that position where uh, I don't have the bodies to fuel Mel's ability.
So just rewinding here, it looks like Dave, you lost another unit. It was a shot from those crossbows. Those cutthroats tend to melt to any real attack, so um, they didn't survive. Brett gets 2 points from the objective from scoring an enemy that hasn't activated yet. And then one thing that we also missed was, Dave, you made the decision to go ahead and activate Mel on the tactics board and not sacrifice her for the victory point, and that was because you did not. Uh, you felt like panic bombing those crossbows to take them out at one wound was worth it. Unfortunately, Brett passed that panic test, so Brett is seeing a string of luck on his side. For
Yeah.
for
Well,
this
that
match.
and um, I didn't see or it must have slipped my mind about that objective, so I didn't even realize he was getting the 2 points until it happened. Um, I think that's why I didn't feel pressure to activate the cutthroats. So I think it wasn't until Brett killed them that when he took his victory points, and I'm like, man, crap.
Yeah, but it could have gone so well for you, right? You did what you needed to do. I failed the first panic test. I just happened to roll a 1. So at that point, if the crown zap kills them, which it was a straight even 7, so it's 50-50. If they die there, then you get the 2 points and your cutthroats don't die. And I threw a serrated enhancement at that crossbow shot. I think I'm over there underneath my mask, like saying some prayers to the dice gods, because it's been really, really fortunate for those crossbows that they're even still alive. And they are just still doing work with even down ranks. They're still doing so much work for me this game. So, but at any rate, you could have basically run away with the game. I think if you would have killed them with Melisandre, it goes 6-3, and I don't have what I believe is my best unit for this match.
Yep.
All right, Dave. So it seems like you're at this point you have to start adjusting your game plan because, like you said, you see that Brett had a 2 point swing from taking out one of your biggest threats on the table offensively. So did what are your thoughts as far as like changing up an original plan that you had? Are you starting to think about playing the objectives a little more at this point?
So, uh, the the objective where you pass your NCUs to get points has always, I should have known better. It's always hindered me because every time I play this mission, I just happen to have 3 NCUs, and I know that uh, depending on where the objective falls or the mission card falls in, you can have like a bunch of rounds of it uh, because because it was the card that Brett revealed. I knew that if I left it there, it was going to stay there for a while, and me passing up on so many uh, tactics board spots, I think really hurt me, especially. So I was just trying to numbers it that, okay, if I pass every NCU every single time, that's an insane amount of points. But then again, the mission, I forgot that I needed 2 extra uh, because in the new missions, there is no longer any missions that require 12. So, I mean, this whole entire mission just threw me for a loop. I had played it so many times before, but I had been playing ever since the new missions came out. I've just been going pretty hardcore in those. And yeah, this one just I was too used to the new Winds of Winter and Dark Wings, Dark Words.
And it looks like here, Brett is not the only one with good luck this game, because if you rolled for the charge with these wardens into the conscripts, you make it and realize that you didn't measure to see if you would be hitting those stakes or not. But it
Yeah.
looks like it looks like you were just barely not touching the stakes, so you were able to make the charge without taking wounds there.
Yeah, the back row is like, suck in your gut. They're stabbing us in the back.
But a pretty good attack here from wardens into conscripts. I believe Brett did pass his panic test.
Yeah.
So 5 wounds. They have activated, so they're not going to be healing unless Brett is taking the board this round.
Yep, exactly. It was a good move. It's not really what I wanted to happen. I knew that could happen if I put them up there. That's the time that you go after the conscripts. After they have activated is the time to go for them, because then they won't be able to heal. But I can't really remember. It might have been a watcher bait when I did that, because it looks like my truckers are going to be able to get into the flank of that unit now and double tap them twice in the flank. So
Oh yeah, and this is probably the watcher on the wall that you played earlier in the game that has just been sitting in your hand, which is a scary card. I mean, it's always been a scary card, but when you have a unit like trackers with the marshal, it becomes devastating, and I think we're about to see that here. Unfortunately, into these sentinels.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got set up because of watcher for a double tap, and I'm pretty sure I have some awful gas to make it even nastier. And I'm using the pivot arc there because I don't use it every single time, but in cases like this where it's important, I want to make sure that I'm not giving myself any extra movement. So there you can see I'm pretty clearly in the flank, and I haven't even shifted yet. So I think my goal at the end of it was to be out of line of sight of everything after the shots and stuff. So my trackers were on fire too. I think I hit them 6 times there.
And then Dave with his patented spin roll there. And he's re-rolling with the vulnerable, so it looks like all 6 wounds, and then a panic test at a -1. I believe they're saving on an 8.
Yeah, I think it killed 8 of them, that attack.
Yeah.
I had the Breathing Conviction, I think, saved me a guy.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Yep, fair enough.
So because I just happened to have the crown. I was like, oh, hey, I get one guy back.
It's actually not a bad card. Like it's not great. People don't love it, but
I just don't like that it falls off for one of its effects. Like, I don't
oh
know.
god, I hit you. I think I hit you 6 again.
Yeah, you did.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't think you didn't play any awful cards for this attack.
No, I guess I didn't. It was the panic that got him. I guess Dave must have rolled pretty decent on defense. They were saving on 5s, but no, I guess that's pretty reasonable. I think my attack dice rolls were just pretty nuts with my ranged units, because I'm pretty sure when I shot the cutthroats, I hit 5 or 6 times too.
And then Dave sacrificing an NCU activation for another point there, and then Brett. At this point, I feel like you're not being worried about being more aggressive. I mean, you had to be aggressive before, but now with activation advantage, offensive advantage, I think Dave, I hate to say it, but you're in bad shape here. Oh, you actually charge in. Okay, so that's. Whew. And then Sword in the Darkness. Oh my gosh.
That's 12 attack dice, Lord Snow. So, yeah, I started to smell a little bit of blood in the water at this point in the game. Fortune was definitely with me to get me into this spot. I felt like it was the time to go aggressive with Lord Snow.
And I think I'm seeing 3 6s there. No, 2 6s. Yeah, 12 hits. Oof.
Yep, and vulnerable and all. That unit is just so brutally disgusting. It's been disgusting since the game dropped. Even back when Sworn Brothers, quote unquote, only had 7 attack dice, Lord Snow with Sword in the Darkness gets you up to 11. See, I think.
So I apologize for my dice because they're numbered, not pips. So I know like it's maybe kind of hard to tell from the view.
No, it's
Like-
fine because right here we see that you took 9 wounds from that attack. You passed your panic, which is great. But wardens at last rank are just they might as well just be a stick in the mud.
And it looks like he passed Roos's activation as well.
Yep.
We're gonna get into it here in a little bit. I guess I don't want to do any spoilers, but it's just worth noting that Dave's patience and staying calm throughout this entire game, he, even despite some of this good fortune on my side, he was in a position to still win this game the entire time.
Absolutely.
You can see the score 6-5, but he's still making ends meet.
Ours is a Fury being played here. And Dave does have the crown, so he's attacking at full rank, so 7 dice on 4s. And only hitting twice. Unfortunately.
Such that's average for some wardens.
And don't tell me Brett saved both and no, he took a panic. So he at least took 1 here. So
I had to sacrifice a small goat to get that.
I think I took like 5 wounds. I think I took 1.
Yeah.
Oh no, you failed your panic.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, what is that?
I failed both defense saves and then failed the panic. Because I remember talking.
The true win was the true win was him having to take those beautifully magnetic models off and then not remembering which spot they went back on.
Yep.
Yeah, what we're seeing here is the pains that Brett has to go through whenever he takes wounds.
Yeah, he got me pretty rattled, so I didn't take them off and put them on the tray immediately. Yeah, I was like, what? Oh my God. Like, I did 9 to him and he did 6 back to me. I was like, you've got to be kidding. Like, but this is the type of thing that can happen. You can't hide from those cards forever. So I think I chose to activate Othel and heal the crossbows, I think.
No, remember who you're like, I can't figure out which one goes where.
Oh yeah.
And then you're like,
brothers.
like, which one is it? I was like, yes, my plan worked.
The plan worked.
Yeah. So you are shook there. You definitely are shook if you're opting not to go for the victory point and you're healing those Sworn Brothers up that are engaged with a unit of wardens with 3 wounds. That is definitely the definition of shook, I think.
Yeah. I got pretty shook by it. I don't remember why I felt like that was necessary. I think it was really just a mistake on my end because I've got conscripts in the flank backing me up. The only other 2 units that Dave has are way over on the other side of the board. I'm pretty sure it just rattled me.
It's fair. It's fair because at 6 wounds, you're still in range of dying from a Mel bomb. So, if you hadn't have done that, I think they would have been the target next round. What do you think, Brett? Is that maybe a consideration of why you decided to heal them?
It's possible. I think I'm still holding on to a little bit of hope that the way the game is shaking out, I might have to table Dave. So I think I was starting to think about how far my Ranger trackers were from the other side of the field, trying to count how many rounds I had to get over there. and then probably calculating some of the odds of me being able to take out those units, because steady as it goes, Dave is over here just scoring away, and I'm thinking if we can't get rid of that mission, he's going to get up to 12 just by passing NCUs. So I think I started to reach a point of a little bit of desperation.
So we have the new objective for the next round come out. It's the score 1 victory point for each objective you control at the end of the round. That replaced the destroy an enemy that hasn't activated this round. I mean, that's an interesting twist to the story here, because there are units that can still do work, or decide just to hang back and score points here. So it'll be interesting to see how both of you approach the next round with that objective in play.
Yeah, I think that is the objective. I think it ended up working out a little bit in my favor, which we'll see as this round goes on. But yeah, still have the pass and NCU activation live, and I just want to play the board. I just want to play on the board. And I think Dave is starting this round going first.
Brett seems to be a little frustrated with the camera setup here. I think he's calling over to me. He's like, "What the hell's going on with this camera, man?" Like,
I think
and I'm like,
letting you
I'm
know.
like in the middle of my match with Craig. I'm like, dude, don't even worry about it. It's fine.
It was just the dice cam, and we weren't even using it anyway.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. I think it was me that removed killing a unit before they activate, because I was worried about the crossbows.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Brett didn't know what to do with himself, since he had free reign on the tactics board for every round. He's like, "What is this?" Like, I can't pass. There's all these spots open.
Yeah, it's really tough. It really is. That's a situation, and even in the new missions, I think I played a 1.7 game mode, and it was tough. Like, it was the mission, your opponent scores a point if you activate an NCU first, and like it's good design by the developers. It's actually really brilliant, because I think they've observed the way that people play, and obviously people want to go to the tactics board first. So it's really, really, really a tough decision that you have to make tactically. It's like, is it worth a point for what I'm going to get out of this board, which is probably a heal, a free attack, or taking some cards and getting a condition token? And it's something you've really got to weigh out. Like, how important is it? And yeah, it's a tough one.
Yes, as we can see here, if you noticed in the beginning of the match, it was very quick plays. You guys didn't have to think very much on what you're trying to do, but now both of you are very deep in the tank, because I mean, this is a very important round. With these objectives active, you can see a pretty huge swing depending on how you decide to play it out. So, Dave's turn here. He knows he's activating Mel, which is in a tough spot, because I mean, yeah, you decide to take 2 wounds off of this unit that's engaged with the Swarm Brothers. So he's gonna hit the crossbows here, and they pass with a 10, of course.
Yep.
Oh,
Finally
man.
passed.
Oh man. They would have saved on a 9? Is that right?
Yeah.
They would have saved on a 8.
On an 8 with the werewood
They
tree.
got the tree there, yeah.
Yeah. So Dave, that's interesting that you decided to take wounds off of that unit. I understand, they're almost dead, but
I knew at this point that there was a decent chance that Brett was going to have to table me. Not like have to, but it was Brett's only guarantee to win was a
right.
tabling. So I
Right.
knew that if I was going to take wounds away from the units that he couldn't really touch, that it could lessen my chance of staying on the board.
That's fair. All right, Brett going in for the charge here. Disorderly because you rolled a 1 on 2 dice and 7 dice on 4s, but you're only at 1 wound left, so I'm thinking that this is a dead unit here. Oh, Dave not even doing the patented roll, the twist roll. So I think I think he already knew the outcome of that attack.
I didn't want to use up too much, mojo on a unit that was probably dying.
I think I sent the conscripts in because I'm still thinking about the possibility that I might have to table him. So I was figuring I needed to get Lord Snow free to get over there to do Lord Snow things.
That makes sense.
And this, yeah, no spoilers, but this round is what basically decides the game, I think.
Right. Okay, so hold the line. We're seeing 9 dice on 3s here. Looks like Dave hit maybe 5 or 6. Okay.
Brett cheating with shield.
I mean, it was inevitable. We had to have seen that card at least be played once this game. And was he take 1 wound?
Yeah.
And he passes the panic. So
That's
Brett.
ridiculous.
Oh my
Just
God.
salt on the wound.
Yep.
Oh God, that's ridiculous. I had kind of forgotten about that. Yeah, that was something else there. 9 dice on 3s, and the conscripts take 1 wound.
I mean, okay, Dave, you got to walk me through what's your game plan here. We know what objectives are active. You're obviously playing down in activations, and it's looking pretty scary for you. But the game's not over yet. You know, you still have Brett thinking that he needs to table you. So, what are you praying for here?
So, the points on the screen are correct, at least the difference, right? So it's 7 to 5, or 7 to 5 or 6 to 4, depending on if we count the 1 points.
Right.
So my thoughts at this point were, okay, I'm up by 2. He's gonna have to pass with all 3 of his if I'm gonna pass with all 3 of mine. Still putting me up by 2. He's on 2 objective, but I'm on 1, so that's only gonna net him 1 more. Still putting me up by 1 more than him. I'm gonna be able to replace going next, so I'm gonna make sure that I have the option to replace the objective card. So it's kind of just a waiting game. Just trying to survive in order to just barely beat him, just by having more points.
I would love to see next round you draw the objective where it's every time a unit fails a panic test.
Oh God.
I think that would have been awesome.
Yeah, I'm getting to the point I don't even want my crossbows to leave the weirwood tree.
They're just gonna hang out in the shade there.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
All right, so yep, Dave activating or not activating Axel. He's just passing with Axel for the point. So now we've got a 3-point difference here, which is forcing Brett to do the same. So he's going to activate Othel for the point. You know, it's interesting seeing the mission. We haven't talked about it at all, but it's score this mission if an enemy has all 3 tokens at the end of the round. Dave, you do have some options with your NCUs and a couple cards in your hand, but I think Brett was more likely to maybe score that if that was the game plan. But you guys may have discussed that. Was that ever a consideration, Brett? Was to go for that one because it's a 3-point swing.
Yeah, I absolutely was trying, and I felt like I had an opportunity to do it. By using fire that burns against the cold, but unfortunately I didn't have one active, and I because I thought about I think what ended up happening was I put the horn that wakes the sleepers onto the conscripts that had activated. So I was thinking if I went to the letters and I put a panic token on them, then I can use the fire that burns against the cold to put a weakened token on them. And then I had the possibility of getting the ranger trackers over to put a vulnerable on them. And it was a consideration that I had made, but the problem was I put the horn on the wrong unit. If I wanted to do that, the horn is on the conscripts in the center, and that's the only way I could have pulled a fire that burns back. So that my plan was basically screwed up because when I played the horn like the last round, I put it on the wrong unit. And here, this is where those pivoting arcs are so important, is because you're going to see that the ranger trackers, by no tolerance whatsoever, are able to fit on that token.
Yeah, I'm seeing that here.
It's not even, it's literally like a fine hair that they fit on that token. So it was really important to Dave and I that, and I did it because of the flank being important, but it's good that I did, because there's no question that when my Rangers did their double tap, they ended up in the correct spot. And then as a result of using those arcs, we know that they were just in range of that token. So if I had gotten greedy and not done the pivot and shifted over too far when I did that pivot, I wouldn't have been able to get on the token. So I guess this is a low key shout out of these pivoting arcs. They're
and
super
just ignore
important.
the objective graphics that I have on the screen. You were completely covering it. The graphics that I have are slightly bigger than what's seen in real life. So I just want to bring that up.
Yep. And it ended up being a big deal because I'm pretty sure I got 6 points in this round.
Yeah, you're scoring 3 from the controlling an objective, and then 3 from your NCU. So that was a 6-point swing for you. And then now we have the next objective coming out is score 1 victory point if you control the letters or horse, but if you control both, it's 3 points. Very interesting. And you decided to replace the control score point for each objective you control. So Dave, how did you feel about seeing that? You were the one that drew it and the one that replaced it. So
I was really hoping for like you were saying, the panic fail panic test objective, because I knew if I did that I could replace the controlling objective mission card, and then maybe take Mel on the crown and just zap the conscripts twice over for 2 points, and then pass with the other 2 for another 2 points. But this one didn't really overall change much of anything. It just kind of forced Brett to take a spot on the board, and that was about it.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting one to come up, and again, like I've been saying, steadfast Dave over here. The game, despite him losing obviously more units than I did, the only thing he killed is Ghost so far this game, but his consistent, steady, calm play. I had a couple of moments where I got really lucky. If you're looking at the score, the Ranger trackers just being able to cover that token, and the serrated enhancement shot from the crossbows because I lived through Mel and the Crown Bomb. Like, this game could have been put away, if it wasn't for a couple of lucky dice rolls. And that just goes to show you, as a player, you have to not only consider like killing stuff on the battlefield, but you have to consider it's so important how you play the game and what you do. Because again, if he had killed the crossbows, I would be at 9, he would be at 11. And if I wasn't on that token, it would be 11-8. And I think there's no way I win.
Right. All right, so looks like Brett is going on the letters to at least deny it from Dave and get that point. forcing Dave to go ahead and activate and take the horse. I'm assuming that would be the play.
Yeah,
Not sure
and
what you guys are discussing here, but
it's the token I was putting down because I still had it. I still had it in mind that if I had drawn like a watcher, I could have bumped those ranger trackers up to get that vulnerable token out. And now I'm able to put a weakened token with the conscripts in the center, so I could have gotten all 3 tokens.
Gotcha.
I was just thinking, it's like, how can I pull this off? how can I get all of these tokens in case something somehow goes horribly wrong?
Yeah, or you're thinking you've got this game in the bag and it's just a little mini game for you to keep yourself entertained while waiting for this match to end.
And couldn't decide. He's like, "Yeah, I'll panic. No, weekend. No, this." And I'm just like, "Make up your mind, jeez."
Yeah, I thought about weakening them because I wanted to keep the conscripts alive for some reason.
Oh, that's fair.
I can't exactly remember what I was thinking. I was thinking, man, Melisandre did so much damage, but she didn't kill anything, and I was such a jerk about her at the beginning of the game. That's what I was really thinking. I wanted to go give Dave a hug.
So it looks like, Dave, you are debating whether or not you want to zap the crossbows or the conscripts here. Do you remember which one you chose, or why you decided for whichever one you chose?
To be totally honest, I can't remember which one I did.
Spoilers,
Because I don't
it
think
was
it
the
mattered.
conscripts. It was the conscript.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to say I chose the conscripts to possibly free myself from that combat. I know he would need max damage, but I just figured if I could free myself from it, I had a better chance. I could even also swing at them potentially if they tried coming back.
Right.
Because I knew that with the missions that were available, doing attacking the crossbows wasn't going to do anything, and they were too far to really matter.
Right. That makes sense.
And they'd been surviving all game. Then I'm like, screw you.
They park next to their happy tree.
So
Then,
you're taking the 3 wounds from the warden. So the conscripts, I believe you measured it outside of range of the corpse pile. So they're needing an 11, I believe.
yep, an 11, and bam.
Oh, do I pass this?
Yeah.
Oh no.
That's why I was saying I don't think it mattered when you're like, who are you gonna zap? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure nothing happens.
Oh wow. That's terrible. Yeah.
And then I think I rolled a 2 on my retreat, so I go like 6 inches. I'm just like doing the sidestep shuffle.
Yeah, I think once you retreated, you foiled the fire that burns against the cold plan. I think that's what I'm looking at. I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting that one now. Because you retreated out of long range. They have to be in long range when they activate. So.
Oh yeah, you're for the vulnerable token. You're talking about the trackers getting into range.
Yeah, well, the trackers and the conscripts in the center. Because I could have taken the horn and brought my fire that burns back just to put a condition token down.
Yeah.
But at the point at which he retreated, it was out of play for multiple reasons.
Yeah, I love how it takes that many things to go right for that objective to score you 3 points when you have an NCU like Tywin, and I know this from experience. Tywin can just do his ability, and then it's that easy. So
Yep.
Yeah, the new mission cards are 10 times better. There's just so many swingy cards, like the one of having an infantry unit in your enemy's deployment. I've had that, I don't know how many times where it showed up end game where there's just a unit in your deployment that's like out of the game. That's just like, oh, awesome.
Yeah.
3 points.
All right, so we're seeing the use of every single ruler on the table here to see how far those trackers can get up there for the vulnerable token, it looks like. Yeah, and I think, yeah, for your activation, you're going to move them back a little bit just to make sure that Brett doesn't get those 3 points,
Yeah.
potentially those 3 points.
And it was just me being a jerk. I think I had another watcher, but I think honestly Dave was pretty aware of the fire that burns situation, which
Yeah.
is, I mean, honestly, not trying to toot his horn because we are friends, but that is being able to think that far ahead and see a play that, in my opinion, that's a pretty tricky play. But the fact that Dave, despite, this is the fourth game, this is the fifth round, things are starting to unravel, but for him to still have the awareness of saying, well, you've got the horn on that unit, you've got a fire that you've played. I know you're capable of doing this, so I'm going to play around this and make sure you can. I was actually really impressed. I was like, I am very surprised and impressed that you considered that possibility and that you're doing what you can do to defend against it. So, pretty, again, Dave is probably criminally underspoken about in some of the channels and in the community, but he is a very solid and just a non-mistake making and very aware gamer. So I give you all of the credit, Dave. It was a real pleasure playing you in this.
And
Thank
we'll
you.
yeah, I mean, we would see that in the score of the game, because although when you look at the field, it looks like, Dave melted to some of these attacks, but the score really reflects, how close it was. And I hope that people that are watching, or that watch this match, really can see the really cool things Dave was able to do to stay in the match, and make it a good match to watch, at least.
Yeah, and hindsight, not charging in that first round or second round, whatever it was, that's 2 less points there. Had I paid attention and had, I guess, the crossbows died like normal people, uh, the cutthroats wouldn't have died before activating. That could have been a lot of, a big point. I mean, that was 4-point swing right there just from those 2 mistakes. Not only that, my line I don't think would have crumbled nearly as fast had I just kept my sentinels in my backfield rather than
Right.
charging them all the way up there. So yeah, lots of learning moments, which was nice. For me, I obviously want first place, but when I'm 3-0 and it's the last round, I'm a lot more relaxed. I don't, hold anything back, but I'm a lot more relaxed because I just want to do well. So going 3-1 is something I still find achievement in.
Yeah.
Uh, I do blame Brett for this match though, because of him not letting me kill anything. I had the worst tiebreaker of all the 3-1s. So even though I was at the top table, I got bumped down to, I think, was it fourth place?
I don't know what exactly it was or what was going on, but my Night's Watch were just ridiculously resilient throughout this event. I think I don't want to misspeak, but I think I lost Ranger Trackers in one game and a Sworn Brothers in another. And I think I lost Ghost in every game. And I think through the 4 rounds, that's all that I lost. Like, I think a net total of like 13 points across all of the games. Like, the Sworn Brothers in the John list were just ridiculously survivable, and then you saw what happened there. Like, conscripts are like, yeah, 9 dice on 3s, it's cool. We're going to take a wound and just 1 wound, and we're going to pass back-to-back panic tests. One of them we need an 11. It's fine.
Well, Dave, you can
Man, we're
Dave,
conscripts.
you
Put
can
some
blame
respect on the
me.
name.
Dave, you can blame me because before the tournament started, Brett asked if we could do grudge matches. And I think that was a low key invitation for me to challenge Brett for round one. And I should have done that because I ended up playing John Hurley and lost that match. So the
Yeah,
tournament may have played out a lot differently if I had accepted that grudge match. So it was very enjoyable to watch this and commentate with you guys. I want to just thank you guys so much for taking the time to do this. I'm going to close out the episode by saying if you like this type of format, let me know because not only do I like doing the casual matches, we're getting into 1.7. I do attend as many tournaments as I can, and I try to shoot as many as I can. So if you guys like this commentary format, let me know in the comments. I'll start it off with Brett since you won the match. Is there anything you'd like to say closing out?
I think if you're watching this and you've made it this far, thanks for listening. Thank you for supporting Chris and the in-person play. Super excited that it's coming back. So I really appreciate your time. But if you've watched it, I think the biggest takeaway that you can get from this, from kind of watching this game, is and observing the way that Dave played the game. Sometimes it's really tough in a war game because it seems like on the surface the objective is to kill, but Dave, playing somewhat of a defensive, less aggressive kind of game, and you change just a couple of dice rolls, like you're talking just minor dice roll changes, and Dave wins the game by basically just playing keep away to an extent. So if you're wanting to get better at the game, just that's a big takeaway. Just remember, it's not just about killing, it's about outscoring your opponent. However you have to do that, you do it. And sometimes you have to do things that don't make the most sense, but it wins you the game.
All right, I'll turn it over to you, Dave.
Yeah, to slightly elaborate on that, in a casual game, things much different. Top table, last round against a great player, you do what you need to do to win, like within the rules of the game, obviously, and not being sleazy, but take every advantage you can as far as just playing defensive. I know if you're playing a casual game and just trying to get some dice rolled, you know you being aggressive is a different thing. But in something like this, if you got to be defensive, be defensive. Just make sure that it's you know going to benefit you in the end, because I know I've seen a lot of people like castle, and it almost never works. I'm not going to say it never does. I've seen it work like once or twice, but it almost never works to be too defensive in this game. But I guess that is one of the upsides to this mission, is that it adds an extra layer of being dynamic, that you don't have to just like punch your opponent's face in. So overall, awesome event. I was super glad that I was able to go. A bunch of awesome guys, and hopefully the next one isn't too far away.
Absolutely. Again, it was a pleasure, you guys. Definitely, listeners or watchers, check out Small Council Radio's podcast. Where can they find that podcast, Dave?
You can find it at a bunch of places. Where we don't really care where you guys listen to it at. We're just we do the podcast so you guys have something to listen to. You can find it on the main platform that we do it on, which is blogtalkradio.com. Otherwise, you can find it on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and I believe we have like 3 others that I have not memorized, but if I find those, I'll try to start memorizing them. But we're on just about every platform you can think of. And if we aren't on a platform that you guys like to listen to, go ahead and recommend that to us. And the awesome thing about Blog Talk is we just input the info and it auto uploads to every platform. So us adding a platform isn't a big deal.
Cool. All right, this was a long one, but Again, thank you guys, and we will see everyone next time.
Holy shit, congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. So if you like this content, please consider supporting me through Patreon. You can find that link in the description below, or at the very least, just hit that subscribe button or like the video. If not for me, at least do it for Rosie. Say bye, Rosie. No.